Welcome everyone to Wrasslin Raw!
You're listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when the World Wrestling Federation developed a little bit of an attitude. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
Time to get wild, could you tell?
The could you tell is what makes it not wild. Joe Giammatteo.
That axe should not be in the hands of mankind.
Or any self-respecting individual, for that matter. I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett, and we're going to examine WWE history, one episode of Raw at a time. In this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about the Raw that aired on November 25th, 1996. This Raw was recorded at the New Haven Coliseum in New Haven, Connecticut, and features Vince McMahon, Jerry the King Lawler, and at times Jim Ross, Sonny, and Hunter Hearst Helmsley on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Ready.
All right, then, let's get into it. Once again, we are not fucking around tonight. We are going straight into our first match of the evening. Bret the Hitman Hart defeats Owen Hart with Clarence Mason by disqualification in 12 minutes and 30 seconds. Vince claims that he's there with good old JR. That was a great change of pace to hear some positivity directed JR's way and some just general positivity in the realm of JR. I think we have officially turned the corner on red-ass bitch JR. I really hope that we're not going to get any more of that. Bret did the typical Bret thing where he gave his glasses to a kid there, in this case a little girl, and she was suitably impressed by that, but the guy standing behind her was not. He popped his denim jacket to flash a Four Horsemen t-shirt for Bret in the camera. I don't know if you guys noticed that or not, but
I didn't.
Yeah, I did.
In the ring here, before things got started, I loved seeing Owen teasing Bret with his belt. As Vince points out, Owen is the only Hart family member with any gold at the moment. Just a neat little tidbit there. That love ended quickly, though, once we went to split screen to see Shawn Michaels in San Antonio being led around a house by apparently Mrs. Jose Lothario, and it felt like we were going to get some constant updates from there. I did end up being wrong about that, but trust me when I say this split screen gave me an immediate sense of dread and foreboding. Just a quick reminder, Bret and Owen was match of the year for 94, right?
I believe that was 94.
Yeah, because that was the first year that we had, it was only the second year that we did it, but we had multiple people there, and they were up against the ladder match. We ended up doing Bret and Owen from WrestleMania 10.
You're talking about our choice?
Yes.
For match of the year? I think we went with the 1, 2, 3 kid Bret Hart.
I thought that was 93.
No.
Oh,
93
shit.
Was loser leaves town match.
Yeah,
That's right. Flair and Mr. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My bad.
But yeah, 94 was loaded with some good stuff.
The content here at Wrasslin Raw is so prolific that it starts to run together.
Yeah.
After what are we at now? 3 years and another lifetime to go.
Well, and you were an emotional mess during that 1, 2, 3
I
kid
was.
Bret Hart match, so.
Understandably so.
It is understandable that I would not be able to clearly see the year on my screen because my eyes and glasses were filled with tears.
Yeah.
Still real to me, damn it.
That's right. That match of the year candidate that we had then, forgive me, listeners, you could see hints of it here between Bret and Owen once things got started. I especially loved the hair takedowns in the middle of arm wrenches. That was great shit, pal, and something that you just don't see very often, and the way these guys worked it was fantastic. And man, I was absorbed into this. It certainly wasn't another match of the year at this point, and it didn't end up being one, but it was a testament of the ability of good wrestling to keep people entertained. If every match even came a little bit close to this, I think I would have a lot more positive things to say, generally speaking. I loved the slaps into the roll-up pin. I loved Owen selling clotheslines and elbows off of rope work. I loved Bret selling the knee to the gut off of rope work. I loved Owen putting Bret into a Boston Crab and yelling, "You're a loser!" into Bret's ear. I could easily keep going with a list of things that I loved, but this match did have to come to an end, and I thought that I would instead cap it off and say that I loved Steve Austin coming out of nowhere to attack Bret Hart and get Bret the DQ win. But that kind of fell apart a little bit for me pretty quickly when the British Bulldog came out to save Bret and started an argument that made it seem like Austin was friends with the heels in this match. That got halfway saved by Austin nailing the Bulldog with the chair. That looked great. And it could have been fully salvaged if Austin had given it to Owen, too, in true rattlesnake fashion. But instead, Austin opted to leave rather than keep going. And that's where this segment ended. Man, what a matchup to kick off this episode. I was pretty into it and enjoying it up until the finish, which it seems like it's a painful trend around here lately. Things are great until the finish. They always seem to fall apart there. But even with that, this was a fantastic way to kick off the episode. Joe, please, what did you think of our show opener?
Yeah, I had a couple thoughts when this match was starting. I had on me, and that was number one is it's kind of weird to me to have a brother versus brother match with absolutely no story whatsoever going into it. That made me think of another thought, which was, okay, I have to think that there's going to be Stone Cold Steve Austin interference in this match, and that's exactly what happened. But it wasn't disappointing because the match was pretty good for that, 12 minutes you said that we got? So, yeah, I mean, there's really some little things that these guys do that makes it really interesting when they go up against each other. Like Bret can kind of get away with fighting dirty a little bit because he's going up against his brother. You know, you mentioned the hair pulling and things like that. And the other thing is that side Russian leg sweep. Who is it? Was it you, Jason, that always talks about that Bret Hart does?
Yeah, Bret was doing the side Russian leg sweep before anybody else was, yeah.
It's always just beautiful. It's a thing of beauty every time. But on Owen, it's just absolutely perfect, you know, because you got to have a good opponent to, you know, make that look better. And who better than Owen Hart, his brother? Really good match with a lot of little things that were exciting and interesting storytelling at the end too, because is Bulldog turning babyface? Is Bulldog talking Owen into turning babyface? You know, we don't really know what's happening. So I thought that was an interesting way to, I guess, swerve things a little bit rather than just giving us that interference at the end. You know, they kind of added a little bit extra there with Bulldog, and I liked that.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with both of you here. It's pretty tough to not come away enjoying a match between Bret Hart and Owen Hart. My enjoyment started right at the beginning when Bret backed Owen into the corner and Owen screams, "Get out of my face!" Just great things like that. And then they start tying up with each other and it's flawless. I mean, they, of course, as brothers have done this a million times and it shows. And, you know, not in a bad way, not like it's boring, in that everything is timed perfectly. And we couldn't have a Hart brother match without them exchanging Irish whips to each other to give that ring shaking impact.
Oh, yeah.
Always love that. And they both did it in this one. You know, and Bartlett, like you mentioned, it's definitely one of those matches where you start to struggle to come up with things to really talk about because it's all just good. You know, when you have bad things happening, that's easy. But here you got to just sit back, relax, and enjoy a flawless match between two brothers that have made this look good throughout their entire career. Commentary, I thought it was a little odd. They kept on bringing up how Bret in his soon-to-come match against Sid, how it's not going to be up to his wrestling skills. It's just going to be a fight. And there's no special stipulation on this match. It's not like a no-holds-barred match or anything, right? It's just a wrestling match.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, so I don't know why they kept on saying basically that his wrestling skills weren't going to matter that much in the match, but I don't know. I thought that was odd. But as far as the match goes, really great for 12 minutes of action. And the Stone Cold ending, I didn't mind it. We're still in this time period where they're afraid to have any major victories or losses on a Raw. And, thankfully that is going to change in the near future. It's going to be looked at as one of the banner programs. So there's going to be more major victories, but instead we get this disqualification. But what they did with Stone Cold and Bulldog, I'm kind of with you, Joe. I thought they switched it up enough that made it interesting.
Yeah, I should probably clarify on my notes here. I like what happened in terms of Bret, Bulldog, Owen. Joe, you made a great point about, now we're kind of wondering, is it Bulldog that's turning face? Is he trying to talk Owen into, because we know that's where it's headed eventually. And we try not to look at things through that, future sight lens, but what I really disliked about it, and it's not even a huge dislike, this is me just being a nitpicking dickbag.
Of course.
It's well,
what you do best.
It is. It's what it's doing for Austin here. And I feel that, we're still developing Austin. We're still getting to where he's going to be. But man, I cannot wait to have that full don't give a fuck Texas rattlesnake gimmick going on here. And I feel that this left Austin a little lukewarm, walking away from Owen. That's my main gripe. I like what's happening with Bret and the other guys here. No problems there. It's that this, to me at least, this started off getting Austin over a lot more with me. Not that he really needed it, but coming out of nowhere and nailing Bret with the chair, that was good shit. But backing off on Owen, it kind of feels lukewarm, feels a little weak to me.
Does it only feel weak because the Stone Cold of a year just would have taken out everyone with the chair?
It's not even that so much. It's the Stone Cold of a week ago that attacked The Undertaker of all fucking people, the Phenom, the guy that's been creaming people.
But then tucked tail and ran when The Undertaker didn't go down.
That is true, but The Undertaker is a zombie, and
that's true.
The rattlesnake might not have been able to think of the best way to behead him at the time. But in this case, he was holding a chair. He had the chair, it got handed back to him like 5 fucking times.
Right now, he's the destroyer of ankles with a chair.
Yes.
And that's what they're doing. To me, that makes him look good. That makes him look dangerous.
Yeah, I like what he was there to do to Bret. Absolutely.
Even walking away from Owen, I think it's still, whose ankle is he going to destroy next? That's what I'm thinking.
Well, I mean, fair points, all. Like I said, I think the way that it made Austin look came across stronger to me than the way that it made Bret, Owen, Bulldog look. And we've mentioned it a couple times here already. Ryan, you mentioned it in your notes. With great matches like this, it's hard to come up with a lot of notes because you just sit and you get sucked into it. I tried to go the opposite route with it, and I tried to just list off some things that I loved about it just to fill out my notes. And I realized pretty quickly that I was going to be sitting here just rambling off a bunch of shit that I love for a while because it was that good of a match. And so, again, I have to be a nitpicking dickbag a little bit here.
Thankfully, though, you get to completely forget about that with our next great match.
That is correct.
Yeah, we do have to keep things moving here because we have to make sure, not just us in the podcast here, but Vince and the production team at Raw, we have to make sure that there is plenty of time to get deep with Jose Lothario later. So now we're going to go straight into our next match. The Executioner. Womp, womp, womp. With Mankind and Paul Bearer defeats Freddie Joe Floyd, womp, 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 by submission in 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Not a lot of notes on this one here, guys. I think the Executioner was coming out to remixed didgeridoos. It was supposed to sound like a mix of horror movie themes and sounds. I am very confident in saying that I heard pieces from Friday the 13th, The Omen, and Halloween. The Executioner himself, his get-up almost has a mock serial killer, almost like Zodiac motif to it. Otherwise, completely boring outfit. Was just everything about him was boring. We got a promo from Paul Bearer and the Executioner and Mankind. Not so much the Executioner, but he was standing there in what looked like the corner of a kindergarten classroom. It was otherwise not noteworthy. Hate to say it, but here we are. We got another split screen, this time with Doc Hendrix giving us an update on backstage activity with Bret and everyone else. That just really wasn't all that informative. Meanwhile, in the ring, nothing of any note happened at all. The most generous I could be here is to say that this was a Superstars opening match. The Executioner's finisher is apparently the Asian Spike. I guess they wanted to stick with the theme of sticking things in people's faces. This mini stable that Paul Bearer has, you know. The Asian Spike amounts to the Executioner sticking his thumb into the throat of his opponent, and the move gets sold in much the exact same way people used to sell the Mandible Claw before they started kicking Mankind in the balls. Anyway, that's it for this match, and Freddie Joe Floyd's career, I'm pretty sure. Thankfully, Mankind stayed out of it. That smart bastard. Mankind didn't touch this any more than he had to. Ryan, were you able to get any more out of this than I did?
No. No, I wasn't. And I agree, Mick Foley definitely forward thinking here, saying, I can't get in the ring with this. It could end my career. This was not good. The Executioner, the King mentions that the Executioner is huge, and he's right. He's a big motherfucker, but he is clearly well past his prime. Freddie Joe Floyd, he does his best to sell for the Executioner, and, Freddie was already featured as a Jobber of the Week, so it's no surprise he's doing his jobber duties here. But the finisher, this Asian Spike, the old thumb to the neck move, that was really lame. Very lame. This is the first time we saw the Executioner and his finisher. It's a debut for both, and they both fell flat. I'm really hoping this is going to be the end of the Executioner. I know I thought he would have been gone by now already, but here he is.
We've talked about, this is Terry Gordy, right?
Yeah.
He's past his prime. We've mentioned all that, but to me, the thing that's just so bad, this is just so hokey to me, the gimmick itself, like, it's just, nobody cares about it. It's not quite up there with like Mantar and those goofy gimmicks.
But not far.
It's not far. And, we're at a time where we're trying to get away from that a little bit. It's just a weird time to bring this in. Especially you're getting it into something that has been just absolutely fantastic with Mankind and Undertaker.
He's been the weak point for a month now.
Yeah, you're throwing this Executioner in there. And actually, throw Paul Bearer in there too. Like, Mankind, Paul Bearer, and Undertaker has all been amazing for the last, few months. And you're just shoehorning this bad, hokey bullshit in there to ruin it. And I just don't understand why.
And it's funny because the promo that Paul Bearer cut before the match, it's probably the first one that I would say was completely forgettable.
Yeah.
And I think it was just because he had to cut this for the Executioner.
Yeah.
And he had fucking nothing to work with.
Yeah.
He knew his plate was empty, so he couldn't bring anything.
His plate was empty.
So for the first time, Paul Bearer brought us a lackluster promo. So we could thank the Executioner for that as well.
Yeah. And it's still amazing to me that I feel like they probably had higher hopes for this.
Certainly.
But they just, what a rebound to go from this to the Kane storyline.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
What, the following year? What a rebound.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. You said, you have the Executioner here in comparison with like Mantar. I think it'd be a really fun exercise one of these days to, once we get these shitty gimmicks like this, to just throw them all on like a wheel and then spin the wheel. And for part of our conversation, we could, if we're here talking about the Executioner, we spin the wheel and maybe the wheel lands on the Goon. And we can say, okay, is this better than the Goon or not, and why? And just go down the list. We could have some great conversations with all of the shitty fucking gimmicks, actually ranking these fucking guys.
That's a lot of time to set aside for the likes of the Executioner and the Goon.
Right.
That is a great point. I did also want to just throw out there that Mankind spotted the Asian Spike the same way he spotted Amen Johnson in the nosebleeds. Like, this is the man that says maneuver for every fucking thing that happens, and yet he called the Asian Spike as soon as that thumb was up. All right, let's keep it moving here, because still to come, we'll get to see Sable standing around outside of a Mark Marrow match. But before then, we get a view of Shawn Michaels sitting on a couch with Jose Lothario, who, by the way, was looking quite hardy for a man who died.
Yeah, I couldn't tell.
Right.
Shawn did not look hardy, though. Shawn looked fucking miserable. And like he hated his life. Vince asked if Shawn was with us, and Shawn said, "Yeah, I'm with you," and rolled his eyes. We broke to commercial there and came back to that same scene. Vince, unfortunately, goes to Jose first for comments, and much like Lou Albano, Jose takes advantage of the opening to apologize to Shawn in broken English. Apparently, Jose needs a balloon in his heart. That's that for Jose. Shawn stares at the floor while McMahon sets up the next question in every possible fucking way. He prompted Shawn with the story about his boyhood dream being shattered and just led him to every single thing that Vince wanted to get across here. I kind of got the feeling that Vince wasn't confident that Shawn was going to hit any of these notes, and therefore Vince was really fucking overextending himself trying to set this up. Shawn actually got a little heated with some of his responses. It was great to see some passion out of Shawn here, but I just wish it didn't have anything to do with hitting a 62-year-old man with a camera. What a fucking thing to be yelling about. Vince was asking about Shawn getting thrown off of his game with the fans cheering for Sid. Didn't mention any of the boos, I don't think. Shawn lost his shit again. This one felt a little more forced. Shawn says we'll be seeing a lot more risk coming out of him, which I'm sure we, the viewers, will be blamed for later. And at some points, Shawn came across like a slurring child. Shawn's final comments came while Rocky Maivia was up on split screen, and then Shawn's comments were cut off completely for Sonny's entrance music, which I thought was just the tops. Something about that just felt poetic. Sonny was looking damn good in her dress as she was coming out the entryway. I was pretty confused at this point as to why she was here. Fucking Vince ended up dancing with her. It was actually kind of entertaining. It lasted all of 2 seconds. If it had gone on any more than that, I wouldn't be as up on it as I am, but it was ridiculous. This led to a new Karate Fighters tournament segment. The Toddster introduced the Sable versus Sonny round. Sonny was obviously superior in the pre-match promos. Sonny ended up winning because she cheated by putting chewing gum on the base of the Karate Fighter. They did discover that, which transferred the win to Sable by DQ. The only way Sable's going to win anything, I think, here. And then we came out of that to a raging Italian stereotype. But before we get to that, Ryan, we had a lot of new material in this segment. What did you think of Shawn's interview and this week's tournament bracket?
Starting off, it was hilarious to see just how uninterested Shawn Michaels was in doing this segment. That was pretty great.
He doesn't want to be with Jose Lothario any more than we do.
No, I mean, you know that he keeps that thermostat at like 84 degrees. Jose, though, comes out blaming himself, and Shawn, in a very forced voice, says, "Oh, no, you didn't." But it was nice to hear that after Jose's full cardiac arrest, It sounds like, as we predicted last week, he's going to stick around in San Antonio. He's not going to be hitting the road with Shawn. So I guess if there's one good thing we could get out of this little interview segment, it's going to be the end of Jose. We're not going to see him anymore.
No, thank goodness he died.
Yeah. Looked pretty good for Weekend at Bernie's there.
Yeah.
And then Vince, he sets up a bunch of questions for Shawn, and Shawn kind of slurs his way through them. They very conveniently dodge the fact that he was booed. They say Sid was cheered, but they don't talk about how Shawn was booed. But in his response, you could definitely tell Shawn was kind of reacting to the fans booing him. You could tell he still did not like that. That section wrapped up, and as I stated, goodbye, Jose Lothario. I'm glad that's finally done with. The Fighters Tournament, one of the more entertaining segments, having the part with Sonny putting the gum down and there being a disqualification. There was almost a little ring storytelling going on here, so that was a little better than the other ones.
Yeah, Shawn's interview, to me, I mean, it comes off as very defensive and unlikable. I mean, Shawn came off very unlikable to me in this, which this type of interview is only going to fuel those who booed him at Madison Square Garden to want to boo him even more, I think. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, just very aggressive with the way he was talking. And like you guys said, it almost seemed like he didn't want to be there. And the other thing is, did either of you think that they were green screened on that couch?
Yes, I did.
It looked like they were on like a Saturday Night Live set. Yeah, the background just looked so fake to me. I don't know. It was just very bizarre. And yeah, talk about bizarre. They show Rocky Maivia randomly at the end and then Sonny's music to cut off that interview, which was just very odd timing. And this is not a live show, so I'm not sure how they fucked that one up, but whatever. The Karate Fighters, some pretty bad acting here, but what do you expect? Sable and Sonny, I mean, it gave us what we expected, I guess, right?
Yeah. An excuse for Sonny to jump up and down.
Right.
That's all we ever really need. Speaking of things that we do and don't need, let's go to our next match. Rocky Maivia defeats Sal Sincere by pinfall in 4 minutes and 25 seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, Sal Sincere is our jobber of the week. Take it, Ryan.
Thank you, Jason. It's been a little while, but glad to have Sal Sincere as our jobber of the week. Salvador Sincere was born Thomas Brandy on July 9th, 1966 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He made his ring debut in 1985 after being trained by indie wrestler King Kalua, and has gone by the ring names The Patriot, not the original Patriot, of course, Chippendale Tom Brandy.
Oh, man.
Just plain Tom Brandy, Johnny Gunn, and Salvador Sincere. His first notoriety came in International World Class Championship Wrestling, where he won the IWCCW Television Championship as his Chippendale gimmick. It was similar to the one used by the Fabulous Ones, Stan Lane and Steve Kern from the 80s. Then, in the early 90s, Tom joined WCW, with his biggest and most memorable match being the Halloween Havoc of 1992, where he teamed up with Shane Douglas and Tom Zank to defeat the team of Bobby Eaton, Arn Anderson, and Michael Hayes. In 94, Brandy had a brief run with ECW, winning the ECW tag team belts with partner Tommy Dreamer. However, a untimely injury sustained by Tom had Shane Douglas replace him on the team only a month after winning the belts, and he was released from the company shortly after. On June 25th, 1996, Brandy made his WWF debut on a taping of WWF Superstars as Salvador Sincere, a villainous stereotype of a Bronx Italian mafioso character. He defeated fellow jobber Dan Jesser. It would not be long before old Sal Sincere started being used exclusively as a jobber in the WWF. To his credit, he jobbed for some of the greats. The first time we saw him, he was jobbing out to The Undertaker. Of course, this match tonight with a young upcoming Rock. And he also has losses to Shawn Michaels and Jesse James under his belt. His biggest push in the WWF is something we will be covering in the future. He gets into a feud with one of Wrasslin Raw's favorite, the mild man Mark Merrow.
Great.
Mark will call Salvatore out, calling him nothing but a jobber, and that his real name is Tom Brandy, not Sal Sincere. Sal would then drop the gimmick after this, going by his real name after being outed by Merrow. Despite a name and gimmick change, though, Tom would remain a jobber with the WWF until his last match on March 17th, 1998, losing to Jeff Jarrett on Monday Night Raw. Ever since leaving the WWF in 98, Brandy has been making his rounds in the indie circuit, wrestling and signing autographs under the names Salvador Sincere, Tom Brandy, and The Patriot, without ever getting the original Patriot's permission or blessing. The last match he wrestled was just a couple weeks ago, as this recording happens. It was on July 30th, 2022. He was wrestling as The Patriot and defeated Rico Hendrix at the AWA Hot Summer Fireworks event. Tom Brandy's current to-date record is 574 wins, 394 losses, and 31 draws. So, although he was definitely a jobber with the WWF, he's not technically a jobber according to the numbers.
Thank you for that, Ryan. We've got him up until 98.
Yeah, 98.
That's probably the most shocking part of that story, the Sal Sincere story.
Well, he's not going to be Sal Sincere, though. He's going to be going by just
he's going to enter witness protection.
Yeah, just Tom. After Mark Merrow calls him a fucking jobber on television.
I got to admit, I'm kind of looking forward to how that goes.
I mean, just to hear it, not to see the matches, but
right. Well, that's why I'm so surprised that he's with us up until 98, because according to this match, he doesn't have the skill to carry him that far.
Well,
I'm pretty sad that we missed this wet hot firework event or whatever. What was it called again?
Let me look that up again. It was the AWA Hot Summer Fireworks event.
Hot Summer Fireworks, yeah.
Yeah, Hot Summer
But that
Fireworks
was exciting.
event.
That's where they held the beach bikini blast.
Yeah.
And just think, if it's a fireworks event, everyone should get pyro, right?
Oh, yeah. Good
true,
call
yeah.
there. In the ring here, there's old-timey accordion music while Sal Sincere tells everyone that he loves them. Not sure what's going on there, because then on split screen, Lou Albano out of nowhere.
Ugh.
I love that reaction out of you, Joey. I love it.
Uninvited again.
Yeah.
Lou was putting over Rocky. Lou was followed by Don Morocco. That was a little cool, seeing Don Morocco there, talking up the Rock. Poor Rocky's ring gear looks terrible. I don't know what's going on. It's like they resized one of Jeff Jarrett's tops or something for him here, but left them all
And tried
dangling.
to make it tropical colors instead.
Yeah.
And his hair. Was this the first time the King called him the pineapple head?
Yeah.
And what's terrible is when we saw the first promo or vignette of him before he came out, he kind of had the haircut of what he will in a few years, but it looks like they made him grow this ridiculous haircut for the gimmick.
Yeah, I feel like when we saw him backstage, he was like watching.
Yeah, he had the sideburns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things in this match started off pretty hokey. That got worse whenever we got a split screen from Doc Hendrix updating us with no real updates. In the ring, there were a couple of mistimed spots. There were botches. We ended up finding out that Sunny, I guess, was there to scout Rocky. She was drooling over him on commentary. And things were just not all that great for the remainder of this, up to and including the lead up to Rocky's finisher, the shoulder breaker. Shoulder breaker itself looked great, but the setup was lacking. And that's it. That's the end of this match. I'm sure that there is equal blame to go around here between Rocky being green and Sal Sincere being Jobber of the Week. So with that being said, Joe, who deserves the most blame for this match, do you think?
Well, again, we get the how many people on commentary to make it even worse again. So I don't know who's to blame, but once again, I have to point out how highly offended I am by the Salvatore Sincere gimmick.
Hey, what's the matter, you?
But it's nice to see Rocky Maivia in a match here. It's going to be nice to watch his development here on screen. And the stuff with Sunny it's almost like they're giving her the gimmick of the girl from the soap opera who is like troubled and sleeps with all the guys. I don't know what.
Had daddy issues.
Yes, very unwholesome. I'm not sure where they're going with that. It's just very strange to me. She's almost like a sexual predator.
Yeah.
Like wanting to take Rocky in the back and do some crazy shit with him. But I don't know. Like I said, it's fun to see Rocky Maivia. It's fun to see his development. I know it's going to be a while before we see anything close to The Rock. But, using that shoulder breaker right now, it's going to be cool to see him kind of incorporate other moves, similar to what we saw with a guy like Stone Cold Steve Austin, who, was using other moves and then developed the Stone Cold Stunner and really kind of advanced that move itself as time goes by. So it'll be cool to see that with Rocky.
Yeah, I agree. It's cool to see Rock here and watch his development. But sadly, this match with Sal Sincere, there were definitely some missed marks. Starting off with Captain Lou, we get to see him talking up Rocky Maivia. And then the King said that he was about as believable as OJ on the witness stand. So that's a nice snapshot of time. That's pretty great. But the match going split screen for most of it, we spend a good amount of time with Doc Hendrix or Sonny just completely drooling over Rock here through the entire match. That was basically what this entire match was about, was how many different things Sonny could say sexual about The Rock. That, and of course, this cannot go unhighlighted, how great Sal's over-the-top Italianness as he kept doing the thumb pinch and the finger gesture in the air to the fans. Just, I fucking love it. It was so great. I mean, I wish his in-ring skill could be as great as his gimmick, but it wasn't. I do enjoy The Rock's finisher here. The shoulder breaker, I kind of like how it looks. So, although it wasn't the best match in the world, I thought this was a standard jobber match. I didn't hate it. It was worth my time, I guess.
Ryan, you had said that one of Sal Sincere's older gimmicks was that of like a Chippendale dancer type.
Yes.
Is he still wearing the Chippendales outfit as Sal Sincere? Because that's probably one of the things that I hate most about him is that he comes out in like this pink, glittery...
I'm not sure. I didn't look that up, so I'm not sure, but there could be.
Yeah, like what mob guy looks like that?
Yeah, right.
Well, because I've always wondered about it, like it doesn't fit at all. Even with the over-the-top gimmick, it doesn't fit. But once you said that, I was like, oh, I bet you he just didn't want to have to shell out money for a new outfit.
Well, why would you?
When Chippendale dancers look exactly like mobsters, you're right. Why would you?
Yep, same thing.
Well, gentlemen, let's move along here.
It's time to get wild, right?
Could you tell?
Well, first, we have to note, or at least I have to point out, because this was pretty jarring to me. Just to set this up, we go to a view backstage of Sable and Mark Marrow. Mark's going to be talking to us about his upcoming match here. But it really jumped out at me. Sable looks at least 10 years older than Marrow in this. And throughout the rest of the night, she did. I don't know if this was just a one-off thing.
That hair is bad.
Yeah, it didn't help.
Well, they get the news while they're standing there that Hunter Hearst Helmsley will be at ringside for Marrow's match with Billy Gunn. And Marrow cuts kind of a halfway decent promo up until he drops the line, "Time to get wild, can't you tell?"
Oh, yeah, I can tell.
Crickets. Crickets across the board. Before we go to that match, though, Doc Hendrix was there to share the gossip with us, most notably that the Bulldog wants to get a piece of Steve Austin. And that's it for this segment. It was a short one, so just briefly, Joe, what did you think about Mero's short promo? But also, what do you think of the idea of a match between the British Bulldog and Steve Austin?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very interested in that. That's, going back to that first match we had tonight. It's very intriguing to me to find out where they're going with, this whole Bulldog, Bret Hart, Owen Hart storyline here. Mark Mero promos are what they are. The wild man is very mild.
Yeah, I don't have much to add about the Mero promo. Joe, you said it all. As far as this match goes, though, that sounds very exciting. I'm definitely looking forward to Stone Cold versus Bulldog. That sounds entertaining.
Yeah, me too. I'm a little apprehensive, but at the same time, Austin and Owen, I can think of two of those matches. Austin and Bret, we just watched one. We know we've got more of those coming. There are a lot of different matchups with Steve Austin that we have to look forward to in the future that I can think back on and remember. But I don't remember this. I don't remember Austin ever wrestling the Bulldog, and I'm really curious to see how it turns out. Well, gentlemen, we've delayed it long enough. Let's go into our final match of the night. Mark Mero with Sable defeats Billy Gunn by disqualification in 8 minutes and 12 seconds. They lived up to their threat here. Hunter Hearst Helmsley was indeed at ringside, rounding out commentary. And we didn't get any of Mark Mero's entrance at all. I was tempted to request Jobber of the Week status for him, but that would have just been unreasonable. I completely forgot that Hunter Hearst Helmsley was the Intercontinental Champion. Did either of you guys remember that?
Yeah. I did.
Yeah. Barely.
It's the IC title has been completely just forgotten about in terms of storytelling for pretty much this entire time that Helmsley has had it. Yeah. And we might as well just forget the time that Mero had it too. So maybe
Mr. Perfect leaving kind of threw them off a little bit.
Yeah. The last IC champ that had any kind of meaning was Ahmed Johnson, right?
Yeah.
Well, how dare you skip over the Wild Man? Come on.
Yeah, my bad. We spent a ton of time in split screen talking to Hunter Hearst Helmsley there, so much so that I couldn't even focus on the match. Wasn't really missing much. And to be clear, that wasn't really putting over Helmsley so much as just the fact that the common theme with Mark Mero matches is that they are just not interesting in the least bit. And then it was even more mild with Billy Gunn here. I hate to say it, but Billy's better in tag team action. That just screams at me in this match. We got the official word here that the Smoking Guns have broken up. I know we kind of mentioned that a few times before the last time we saw them.
Couldn't you tell by his jeans?
Yeah, these ones were a little more acid wash, weren't they? I do have to admit that I popped hard for Billy Gunn making fun of the Watusi while Mero was down. That was pretty good. And we broke to commercial. We got info for the next pay-per-view, which will be In Your House, It's Time. What an awkward fucking name for a pay-per-view. I don't remember anything about it. Don't remember anything at all. So I guess that will be a learning experience. And this is about when Helmsley started interrupting things. He got in the ring after an outside attack and like a creepy stalking thing with Sable. He got in there with Billy Gunn to attack Mero. Sable was screaming bloody murder again. And then Jake Roberts.
Out of nowhere.
To save no one and do absolutely nothing for anyone. I did laugh, though. I usually don't laugh at this kind of shit, but I did laugh when McMahon said, "Where did he come from?" And Lawler immediately answered with, "The bar." Perfect timing. Absolutely perfect timing. Apparently, Jake was pathetic enough that Hunter and Billy didn't want anything to do with being in the same ring with him, and they left. Who can blame them? And we pretty much ended the episode there. It was about damn time after this. Ryan, I thought this match was absolute garbage and didn't do any favors for anyone involved at all. That includes Helmsley and Roberts, although Roberts being Roberts. What did you think about this match and the way that Raw ended tonight?
Yeah, I'm going to be in agreement with you here, and sadly, I'm not going to have too much to talk about because what we did see wasn't great, and we didn't really see much of it because we saw, I think, more of Hunter Hearst Helmsley than we did Billy Gunn and Mark combined. How long was this match?
This clocked in at 8 minutes and 12 seconds.
This was about a 8-minute and 11-second promo for Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
Yeah.
I mean, he did okay, but the amount of time they had him trying the waist here, it just kind of got lost, especially with the background of this terrible match or forgettable match, I guess. It wasn't terrible in the sense that botched moves like we typically see out of Mark Marrow. Just, it was uninteresting and boring. And the ending with Jake the Snake coming out, like, why? Why is Jake the Snake here? And as the camera was going to black, I got a terrible thought in my brain saying, we're going to see a tag team now, aren't we? Jake the Snake and Mark Marrow versus Billy Gunn and Hunter, probably next week. So I think that's what we're going to get to look forward to.
Sorry, I'm just trying to hold in some vomit here.
Much like Jake the Snake Roberts.
Yeah. Yeah, this is bad. This is not a good way. The balls on these people to put this on last during a ratings war. What the hell?
The sheer balls.
The arrogance.
Who is not switching the channel on this? I mean, unbelievable.
I mean, I know I was someone who watched mostly WWF, but would occasionally switch over to WCW in instances like this.
Yep.
If I see this as the end, I'm going, all right, I guess I'm finishing out on Nitro tonight.
Yep.
Yeah. So many, like, what the fuck moments. I'll start with Billy Gunn, and the Smoking Guns are broken up. Like, hey, they're broken up.
We're not even going to show you it.
No, I mean, they were like kind of building up to it, and I guess nobody really cared, so they just said, yeah, they're broken up. The match was incredibly slow and boring and just terrible. And like you said, Ryan, it was an 8-minute promo for Hunter Hearst Helmsley pretty much. And Billy has this kind of a new look. I mean, he's still wearing the same ring gear, but he's like coming out with different clothes on, because didn't they wear like trench coats or something?
And they had like dark gray, almost black jeans on.
Yeah. So he's got like some other clothes. Who cares, right? Who cares? Why am I even talking about it?
Some new drugstore cowboy clothes.
Yeah. And then Jake the Snake. I mean, are you fucking kidding me? to end the show.
Tag team next week.
Unreal.
So do you want to know? I know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's already obvious, right? That's going to happen next week.
Yeah, I would say that. Obvious is a pretty good way of putting it.
You just sounded like you'd like announce the death of someone close to us.
It's true.
Well,
it's finally happened.
Are you sitting down right now?
It's finally happened.
Jose had full cardiac arrest.
Yeah.
Just like that. This was fucking terrible. And I didn't even really think of it in terms of the 8-minute and 11-second promo for Hunter Hearst Helmsley. You're right. You're absolutely right about that. What jumped out for me about that was that Hunter was not wearing the blue blood shit.
He had just a normal suit on.
The cravat and all of that stuff. He was wearing a normal suit, like you say, but he was still affecting that accent, and it ruined it. If he would have just talked like normal.
Yeah, I agree.
We've mentioned a couple times about how like he'll dip into like the future game during his promos. If he would have just done that maybe could have salvaged some of this, because what he was saying wasn't all that bad. It was just delivered horribly.
Mm-hmm.
We desperately need Helmsley in a new program with we got to get him away from the mild man.
Yeah, and speaking of delivered horribly, Jake the Snake Roberts, he rolled into the ring.
You mean he slithered?
He did slither to immediately get his ass kicked. And then I don't know if you guys noticed or not, but once, because they dogpiled on him, they were kicking at him and everything. And then as soon as they stopped paying attention to him, he got up and went over and just leaned on the ropes for a while and just stood there just staring off into space while they finished up with Marrow and before the end of this. Like, it was terrible.
You have him, rushing to the ring. He's going to be blown up by the time he gets there.
Yeah.
He collected a paycheck, though.
He sure
And
as
that's
hell
what it's
did.
all about.
That pay window.
Yes, sir.
I got in the ring, now pay me. Oh, and I just want to also throw out there, what a shitty way to end the Smoking Guns, Joe, like what you were saying.
Nothing. They didn't even show us how it happened.
With nothing, yeah.
When they were still babyface and cartoon gimmick aside, the Smoking Guns were one of the best tag teams. They worked really, really well as a tag team. Just such waste there.
Oh, by the way, the Smoking Guns are broken up.
Yeah, god damn. They carried the tag team division for a couple years there. All right. Well, as I said, episode over. So let's move it on over now to highlights and low night lights. Ugh. Joe, please, why don't you take it first?
Well, I guess this episode got progressively worse for me because the highlight for me was the first match, Owen versus Bret, and everything after the match with Stone Cold and the British Bulldog. And my low light was just ending the show in a ratings war with this bullshit Mark Marrow and Billy Gunn and Jake the freaking Snake coming out to help.
Well, my highlight, I have to go with the interview with Jose Lothario. No, I'm kidding.
The balloon in Jose's heart.
No, the highlight is Bret Hart versus Owen Hart. But saying goodbye to Jose was a close second. Low light, the fucking Executioner versus Freddie Joe Floyd. Very lackluster match, and we got to see the debut of the shitty Executioner and of his shitty finisher. How many times do I have to give the Executioner a low light before he's gone?
We ought to start a running tally with you and that and me and Hebner. We're going to line up for highlights. Bret and Owen, enough said there, including the aftermath for that. My low light, I got a little bit lazy. I had to go with the entire rest of the episode because it was all downhill from there in every imaginable way. Joseph, do you have any contemporary wrestling news from on and around November 25th, 1996 for us?
Not a whole lot this week. Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer, he states, so I guess the idea that Jake Roberts wasn't going to wrestle anymore has been dropped.
Apparently.
After seeing Jake close out this Raw episode.
Well, I wouldn't say that he wrestled. I mean, it's still technically accurate.
Well,
true.
He's going to be wrestling next week.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dave Meltzer, you guys are going to love this. Dave Meltzer also claims the match between Mark Marrow and Billy Gunn was so bad the first time that they had to go out and redo it later in the show.
Oh, man.
I'm sure you guys have heard the stories about Vince flipping out on guys and making them go back out.
Yep.
And this was one of them.
Well,
Those poor people in New Haven.
That's what we closed this episode with. Real smart. And last piece of news here is about our friend Marty Jannetty. He was injured at Survivor Series. He has a chipped bone in his foot and a bad ankle sprain. So that is why we saw Leif Cassidy team up with Bob Holly. What was that, last week?
mm-hmm.
So Marty is on the shelf here for a little bit. And that is all.
Thank you, Joseph. Illuminating as always. And that is it, folks. We are done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us. If you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can email us at WRASSLINRAW. Just add @gmail.com to the end of that to submit questions or comments. Check us out on social media and on every podcast subscription platform. While you're there, don't forget to follow and subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and let your friends know how much cooler they would be if they became Rawheads like you and me. Next week on Wrasslin Raw, we're going to take a look at the Raw that aired on December 2nd, 1996, with matches featuring Fake Diesel, The Goon, and many more. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.